Hello, everybody, and welcome to this webinar. Thank you guys all for joining. We had just tons of people sign up, which is absolutely wonderful. And we have a great webinar for you today. And as you know, we have the release of UMS 5.09.100. So it's always great to share with you guys what's new. We also have Matthias Huber from our product
Hi,
management group.
hello from Augsburg.
Hello, Matthias. And he's responsible. You're the guy that's responsible for this entire product, right? This is your baby.
Yes, I'm the UMS product manager, so you can put the blame on me. Anything should go wrong.
Matthias, you ready to get going? I'll start it off. Sound
Yes,
good?
yes, please do your thing.
Perfect, perfect. So while people are joining, Matthias, can you flip the slide real quick?
Oh yeah, can I?
Oh,
Yes,
yeah,
I can.
and we have a lot of people that are joined that are not IGEL community members. So just real quick, I won't take much time at all because really you guys don't want to hear me. You want to hear what's new in UMS. But if you're not an IGEL community member, please join. I think you guys will definitely love what we're doing. We have just under 1,000 members nowadays, and over, gosh, 22,000 messages that we're sharing back and forth amongst IGEL employees and customers and partners and what have you. We use Slack for this. We do also have a LinkedIn group. If you go to www.igelcommunity.com, you can log into or join either one. The community is really in the Slack group. That's where we're sharing tips and tricks and scripts and even casual chit chat. And we have NFRs for you guys up there from not only IGEL but also our partners, and that list is growing. We shared the latest IGEL announcements, like the release of UMS and upcoming release of IGEL OS that'll be here soon. We have webinars for you like the one we're doing today, and we'll archive those and share those on the channels. Latest documentation, white papers. It's really it's a place for you guys to stay up to date from the technical side of the business, right? I like to call it for the techie by the techie. So at the end of the day, why should you join the IGEL community? If you're into, responsible for, want to learn more about what IGEL is doing from the tech side, this is the place to be. This is the community, and this is where it's all going on. And I couldn't be happier with the interaction we're having between IGEL employees but mostly the community, the partners and the customers of IGEL, and it's very fanatical a place with a lot of passion about what IGEL is doing. So please join. Next slide. If you're new to IGEL, and I know many of you guys are, we're going like crazy, and you want to know how to get started, we've put together some getting started guides. So they're within the community too, sort of a community project. So we have a step-by-step getting started guide on how to basically install the entire product. And I'm actually working on updating that right now with some of the new stuff we have too. So, it'll show you how to do UMS, ICG, UDC, IGEL licensing, and a whole nine yards. We also have a couple other guides, firmware update guides, and even a guide on how to make the IGEL OS beautiful. Not that it's not beautiful, but even more beautiful, because beauty is in the eye of the beholder. So you can make it the way you want it to look. So some things to think about and things that are going on within the community. One more slide, Matthias. So at the end of the day, go to join.igelcommunity.com or www.igelcommunity.com. They'll actually take you to two different locations. The www will take you to our doorway page that's on igel.com, and it'll have the links to those documents I mentioned, both the links to Slack and the LinkedIn group too. This join.igelcommunity.com will take you directly to a registration page to join the Slack group. So on that note, that's what I have for you guys. Please join. I think you guys will love it if you're not already. I know a lot of you guys are members already. So thank you all for being members. And with no further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Mathias, the brains of the operation, and he's going to share with us what's new within the latest version of UMS 5.09.100. So Mathias, take it away.
Thank you, Doug, and thank you for fostering and growing the IGEL community. That's a great thing to have. So this is about our latest release. It was out last Monday of the Universal Management Suite, our endpoint management system. And I'm the product manager for UMS and also for IGEL Cloud Gateway, the ICG. And this is going to have 4 or 5 sections, and I think we'll open this up for questions after each section, and then we can have some more questions at the end of my presentation. Okay, here goes. So in general, we have a 64-bit Java virtual machine on board now. That comes with the installer. So the UMS installation doesn't use the system Java, but it's bundled because our engineers like to have a complete stack that they can test whether everything integrates well. So that's a big step. It used to be 32-bit Java, even on 64-bit operating systems. Now it's 64-bit. And what does that mean? With 32-bit Java, we could theoretically address 4 gigs of RAM, but of course the operating system won't let us have all of it. So in practice, there was some sort of we hit the roof at 1700 megabytes or so. Now we can do much more, and if you have a large installation, our customers have 5,000, 10,000, 15,000, some almost 20,000 sync lines in a single UMS installation, they can increase the RAM to suit their performance needs. And we've adjusted the default settings for the maximum Java heap size. For the UMS server, it's now 2 gigs of RAM. For the UMS console, the user interface, it's 1 gig of RAM, and half a gig of RAM for the rather small UMS admin application. And there's a new installation part on Windows for the 64-bit JVM and 64-bit UMS. It's where the real 64-bit software goes. And if you update an existing installation, the old 32-bit installation, everything will be migrated by the installer automatically. So we're in the 64-bit age at last with UMS. We've been in the 64-bit age with our thin client operating systems for over a year now. So that I think this makes sense, and we can benefit from larger RAM sizes. That said, this may cause issues with your or your customer's current platform, because we no longer support 32-bit environments, such as Ubuntu 14.04 in 32-bit. We don't support Ubuntu 14.04 anymore at all, because it's the long-term support has expired. So 32-bit Ubuntu, Red Hat Enterprise Linux 6 in 32-bit, we don't support anymore. The UMS, for the UMS console, we don't support the 32-bit Windows variants anymore, and also the 32-bit Linux. The UMS server now is supported on 64-bit Windows Server operating systems on Ubuntu 16.04, Ubuntu 18.04, everything in 64-bit, of course, Oracle Linux 7, and I think that's new Red Hat Enterprise Linux 7. That said, if you only want to try this out, you can run the server and the console on Windows 7 or Windows 10 64-bit. That's what I do. But for production, it's not officially supported by IGEL. Please bear that in mind. Okay, we've updated the 2 most important dependencies for UMS, and that is TOMCAT. I have to apologize here because UMS 5.08, its predecessor, still had TOMCAT, the TOMCAT branch 8.0 built in when the Apache TOMCAT project let run security support out for TOMCAT 8.0. So I apologize, and we make a very big effort to only have security supported dependencies on board in the future. Now the current UMS is on TOMCAT 8.5 branch, and that's maintained with security fixes. And there's also a minor Java update. Okay, so far for the first section. I see there are questions, Doug.
Yeah. So I like all of them, or at least the first one, I guess, is my favorite. Is when do we get an HTML5 management console? Is that something?
That's definitely on the roadmap, but I think no earlier than in a year's time. I'm working on the roadmap at the moment with the team and with the CTO. And we have a lot of plans for UMS, a lot of improvements planned, and we need to schedule these. But the web interface for UMS is definitely a big part of that.
That's wonderful.
But I can't say yet when.
That's wonderful. Yeah. Guys, if you have any questions, use the question piece. We have one more, and then we'll jump in. So if you have a question, please ask it now. And this is more of a request, and as you're planning, Mathias, this might be something that I think would be wonderful too, is the UMS available as a virtual appliance would be really cool. And also, let's say in the Amazon marketplace too, which would be really cool if you could just click a button and have that directly, deployed for you. Any plans for things like that?
Not yet. I'll think about it. The thing is, if we make it an appliance, which is more or less a virtual machine image, we'll have to maintain the whole operating system. People will want updates for the operating system to be secure. So that's quite a lot of added effort. That's the thing with those virtual appliances. But let me think about it. I've definitely made a note of this, and we'll discuss it.
Valid points. Please continue.
I also saw the one about Java.
I skipped it.
Yes, there is an issue with Java licensing, also with the re-engineering of the language itself. And we're making plans to accommodate this at present, because we need to. We're evaluating our options at the moment. So we'll make sure that we have a stable UMS runtime environment. Got
it. And even Docker, one of our key community members mentioned Docker.
Yes, we're investigating that as well, because many clouds host support deploying by Docker. So that's definitely on our map. Okay, can we proceed?
Please.
So here's something that's a new feature: notifications. Oh, that's quite a short section. Let me show you what happens if I start UMS console, because there's something new that happens. So, okay, close it first, and then start UMS console. So there's a new window that goes on top of the UMS console window, and this is notifications. We are now, if you wish to, informing you about thin client licenses that are about to expire, UMS licenses for UMS services such as ICG connection, IMI, and so forth, and about available firmware updates. So what we have here, there's a firmware update for one of my machines. I can mark it as red. And another firmware update. Okay, I can say to the whole list don't show again. And this can also be switched on, switched off, and you can configure how long in advance you want to be warned about expiring licenses. So this is the groundwork for a notification system. I think we'll be able to use it for other information as well. And if you have a good idea, feel free to tell us on IGEL Slack. So what would be a good notification to have when you log onto UMS console? All right, that's notifications for you. Now, a major new feature is the ICG remote installer. Installing ICG, for those who have tried it, is not very hard if you're a Linux professional that has worked a lot with a command line over SSH. If not, it can be hard. And I mean, it had the charm of a not very mature open source package at times, and it was not much fun to install it. So now we've integrated a graphical installer into UMS console that you can use to remotely install ICG. And I'll show you how to do that. Oh, any questions on the previous section?
There is one. Boy, this is a long question. Let's see how well I can read. Oh, let's see how well I can see.
Yeah, I've seen it. Yeah. UMS has, among other things, a web server built in, WebDAV server that thin clients can download files from. For example, wallpapers and certificates and things like that. So if you upgrade an old, or let's say an existing UMS installation, all the program code will be updated and so forth, and the contents of the database, but there is a file system directory. It's usually UMS underscore file transfer. And that will contain a massive amount of files if you work a lot with customizations, wallpapers, and so forth. That will not be migrated automatically, because usually it's a lot of data, so you may need to back up and migrate them manually. I also see from Jennifer, is there a way to get notifications when a scheduled job fails? So that's an interesting suggestion. I'll take that with me. What about the JVM? Does it work on a Mac now? I can answer that when we've decided on a new JVM implementation, possibly a new JVM implementation. We might stick with Oracle still, but so that's up in the air at this time. So I'll keep that in mind. But the Mac sysadmining on a Mac is not a very big share of the market. So while it may be nice to have, I think we can't spend too much effort on that. Sorry, Udo. Shall we carry on? Now for a little live demo.
Yes, please.
Keep your fingers crossed. Okay. So we have a nice little remote installer, but it has a little design flaw. It connects to the ICG base system, to the Linux base system as root via SSH. And that's not what you're supposed to do. So for the moment, we are trying to do, we will fix this in the next release, but for the moment, we will need to edit a configuration file to allow root to SSH into our Linux server. and then do the install, and then change the configuration back again so that we have a decent and safe SSH daemon setup. Okay, so let's do this. I have to switch machines now. So here's a virtual machine that's running the ICG appliance. We'll have to change the, I have to load the German key map first. Load keys. Okay. So let's edit, etc. SSH, SSHD config. And this has permit root login no, which is a very sensible default setting. So let's change that for yes for the moment. And in the line allow users, we need to add root. Remember, we will change that back later. Save this. Service SSHD restart. And we're good to go. All right, so let's switch to my UMS console workstation now. And in UMS administration, there is, and there has already been, an IGEL Cloud Gateway section. Now it's got a couple of icons more. Here's a list. I've already got one IGEL Cloud Gateway configured and connected. And here's a new icon. I hope you can see the tooltip. Install new IGEL Gateway, Cloud Gateway. Before we only had connect a gateway. Now we can install one. So let's do that. And it wants me to select a certificate. And that makes me realize I'll have to create a certificate for the new machine first. So let's go to Cloud Gateway options, where we have certificate management. There's the root certificate and a certificate for the existing machine. So let's create one for the ICG that we are going to install later. So in the context menu, we pick Create Signed Certificate. Certificate, giving it a number so I can remember it better. I'll be John Doe to you. And my organization is very organized. And I'm from Augsburg. And the host name is the one I have memorized. And you see, it checks the pattern. And when it recognizes a valid IPv4 address, it turns from red writing to black. Okay, and it's valid until next year. It's valid for a year by default. So that should do for our intents and purposes. It's being created. Okay, here it is. So now when we want to install a new IGEL Cloud Gateway, it gives us the certificates to pick from. I'm picking the one with the 170 host. And there are a lot of EULAs and licenses to accept now. So let's do that. There's nothing really mean in it. Just the usual business stuff. Okay. And now UMS has already pre-populated this form with the information from the certificate, mainly the IP address. And SSH port is 22, root is the user. And I'll secretly type in my root password. The installation path is the default path that we can leave, and also the ICG port. And this one is pre-populated because I've installed an ICG before. So you'll have to download the installer from igel.com and save it locally, and pick it there. Okay, so this looks a bit empty. I think we will have the terminal messages later. Now it says installing Cloud Gateway, and we'll have to wait for this to turn into successfully installed IGEL Cloud Gateway. But already this feels a bit more convenient than running one command after the other on the Linux command line. Okay, it has been successfully installed, it says.
Matthias, if it was not successfully installed, it would probably say not successfully installed. Will it echo any error messages, or what happens if it was?
We'll have to add that.
Okay.
It just says that it failed, and that's not very informative. So this is a first step towards a better installer, but it's by no means perfect so far. Okay, and in the next step, we can already connect the Cloud Gateway. I'm giving it a display name. The host is pre-populated. We could, if we had more than one IP or domain name in the certificate, we could choose that as well. Because if it's in the demilitarized zone of your network, it will have one IP as seen from the inside of the network and another from outside from the internet. Okay, so let's see how this goes. We could use a proxy if UMS is not allowed into the internet directly, which it is in some organizations. Finish. Yes, and we are connected. That went quite well. And here's some diagnostic information. The gateway is fully connected. We can reload the information. So this looks good. I think that was a bit nicer than the old way of installing it. And now we need to return to our server and change back the config file. Otherwise, I would have a very guilty conscience of leaving people with an unsafe SSHD configuration. And that is not what I like to do. Save it. Restart the service. Okay, here we are. That has been the installer. But this new part of UMS console can do a bit more. And I liked it very much. You can also update the IGEL Cloud Gateway software. So the installer that we uploaded, if we have a newer version of that, we can just upload it and it will be installed and restarted and everything. And here, I told you the default validity of the certificate is a year. So some of our ICG installations will be, the certificates will be expiring, and we can exchange the certificate using the installer. So that should be really handy. All right, that was the ICG remote installer demo. So you can update ICG, you can replace the ICG certificate. There's also a screencast where you can see this on the IGEL community YouTube channel. Here's a link. We'll let you have the slides later. And now the most innovative features.
Hey Matthias, before we jump into MDM,
yes.
Yeah, we have a couple questions if you don't mind.
Okay.
Let me clear my throat. On what operating system were you installing ICG? Is that Ubuntu or what version?
Debian 8. That was the appliance. That's Debian 8 based.
Okay, perfect.
But it will also run on Ubuntu and new in the upcoming 1.04 version of ICG can also be installed on Red Hat Enterprise Linux. And we're working on SUSE Enterprise Linux as well.
Cool. Can ICG be updated from the
Yes.
UMS?
Yes. It can not only be installed, but also updated, and the certificate can be replaced.
Perfect, perfect.
Got an appliance for ICG? Ah, people are really thinking this through. Yes, that is true. And yeah, the issue of maintaining the base operating system has cropped up for ICG. So we're thinking about a clever and economical way to do this. Yeah. Of course, that would be logical. We have an appliance for ICG, why not for UMS?
Well, it just doubles the workload there. Yeah, I mean, you're exactly
Yes.
right. Unless, of course,
Oh, yeah.
unless you get rid of almost anything within the OS except for what's needed, which can be done with Linux. But even then, you still have to update the guy. So it becomes a management nightmare for us, right?
Well, not necessarily a nightmare, but it adds a lot of load. Yeah.
I guess I'm extreme, aren't I?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay. Now MDM. MDM stands for Mobile Device Management. Yes, we will manage iOS devices, so iPads and iPhones, from UMS now. And it has a somewhat limited set of features at the moment, so that's why we call it Essentials. If you have been part of the beta program, you will already be acquainted with MDM Essentials for UMS. And the features are more or less the same. And we're opening this to a wider public now. That's why it's called a preview. It comes with 5 mobile devices free, so you don't need to buy a license or install a license. And it's already included in the standard installation of UMS 5.09.100. One small flaw, you will need to get a demo license for ICG. I'm afraid I had overlooked that point. So if you really want to try it, ask your IGEL representative for an ICG demo license.
Matthias, we actually have a mechanism for that. So it's something I get asked quite often. So if you do need an ICG license, bug us. Just email icgdemo@igel.com, and that'll go to one of our fearless leaders, Jed, and myself, and we'll get you a license. There's a process for that now.
Okay, so there's what's the address for me and the listeners?
You got it. icgdemo@igel.com.
No hyphen?
No hyphen. Just one word.
Okay.
icgdemo@igel.com.
That's great. It's very helpful. Okay, and now let's have a look at that. So, yeah, you have to install the license for the ICG, not for MDM as such. And then what can you do with it? It uses profiles because it more or less manages the iOS devices like you would manage IGEL thin clients or UD Pocket or devices converted with a universal desktop converter. And these profiles have restrictions. For example, can people use the camera? Can they use iTunes? What Wi-Fi networks are they allowed to connect to? How complex does the passcode have to be? So that would all be part of a profile. Apart from that, just as with a thin client, you can also send commands to a device. You can lock it, you can restart, shut it down, you can reset it, and in the process erase the local storage. And of course, you can install a profile. And you may see that the restart and shutdown commands have supervised only appended to them. The supervised mode is a mode that you can set the iPhone into using macOS and Apple tools. And that's a mode that allows more settings to be managed. So it's basically either in default mode or in supervised mode. If you want more control over, let's say, your corporate iPhones, put them into supervised mode. But Apple tools will do that for you. And then we can do more with these. Why do we support iOS devices? They're quite popular, for example, with the IGEL team. And also, there is a standardized management interface by Apple that we can use. We only have to connect to that interface. And before that, we had to qualify as a management solution vendor and make contracts. And we also had to do some cryptographical certificates and everything. But now that we're allowed to do it, we can just use the interface that IGEL gives us. So it's not a homegrown solution, but it's the official Apple way. And that works quite good. Okay, how to install it? You install UMS, you install ICG. We've already done that. You need an ICG demo license. This is roughly how it works. So we are using ICG because the iOS devices are typically outside your corporate LAN, your local area network. They're not sitting on the desk connected to Ethernet. No, they're out and about. And they need the Internet Cloud Gateway so they can connect from the internet to the gateway, which connects them to UMS inside the corporate network. And then there's a thing that is called APN, Apple Push Notification. And this is part of the API. We can use APN to send a push message to the iOS device. Hey, there are new settings for you available from UMS via ICG. And that triggers the download of new settings. And this is the way we can push out settings to an iOS device. Because we're using another part of Apple infrastructure, you need to create a certificate for Apple push notifications and upload them via UMS console into ICG. There's good documentation about the whole setup. You need an Apple ID, and then you create a push certificate. But I won't bore you with that. I prepared it earlier. And then you also need to install a firmware description for iOS. UMS has firmware descriptions or metadata about all the supported IGEL operating systems, so it knows which settings and commands a client device understands. And it's the same for iOS, and for the preview, for the time being, you can download that from where you also download UMS and just use an import function to import it into UMS. Okay, and then you can enroll your first mobile device. And there's an app on Apple App Store, and it's called the IGEL MAM app. It should be MDM, but we are going to change that. Okay, so I'm going to try and enroll an iPhone live now. So this is the first time I'll switch on the camera while I'm on a webinar with the great public. Hi, this is my test iPhone, and I'm Mathias. So let's try this now. I'll have to switch to my UMS machine. Many windows. All right, so what I have here is an old iPhone. Oh. And it already has the IGEL enrollment app installed, this one here. It's free to download, and it's only for the enrollment part. Once your iPhone is enrolled into MDM for UMS, you can delete it. But that doesn't make the iPhone unmanaged. Yeah, you just remove the installer after the job is done. So, hang on a second. Okay. Now why is that? There is a page that will help you enroll your device. You see there's a QR code for my 2 IGEL Cloud Gateways. This is the one that won't work because I haven't installed the push certificate yet, but this is the right one. And all I need to do with the app is just is a scanner, and I can scan the QR code. Okay, now it asks me, do you see my camera at all?
Yeah, we see it.
Yeah, do you see the phone?
Yes, yes.
Okay, because I don't see it in the preview. Okay, so now I can enroll it. Okay, and now we have the whole shebang because we have a self-signed certificate. So don't do that unless you know you are trying out this preview. Okay, we have to say yes a couple of times, visit the website, and then it realizes, oh, it's trying to write to the settings. Aha, and that's what we want to do. Okay, now we have a self-signed certificate again. Visit the website, allow the settings to be opened, and now we see IGEL Mobile Asset Management, and we choose install. We need to enter the passcode. Okay, it gives us some information that we are going to add UMS with a certain ID to the management systems. And we choose install. And we're asked once again whether we want to trust the management application. Okay, now the profile is installed. It's done. So this must be an old browser page. All right, so now I should be able to send a command to the device. So first let's see. Sorry, this is a modal window. Whether the device has been enrolled properly. Yes, here it is. So this is my iPhone that I've just enrolled. Yeah, the device information will be populated over time, and you can only make settings via profiles, or you can send a command. So let's send a command. Let's say, let's lock the device. Oh, it is already locked. Okay. Then let's clear the passcode. Clear the passcode. Do I really want to do it? Yeah. So now, Oh yeah. So look. No passcode. Okay, that worked. So try this out. Let us know how you like it. It's not a very, very big and powerful mobile device management system such as Mobile Iron or Intune, but for small to medium-sized companies that do like the way we manage their devices with UMS, it may be a nice add-on for managing mobile devices the UMS way. So let's take questions about MDM.
Perfect. We have a bunch of them. So will it support DEP for supervised?
What for supervised? I'm not.
DEP? Jason, what do you mean? What is DEP? Is it DEP? What is that acronym? Jason's smarter than we are. So let me skip to the next one as he replies to that question. Is it possible to configure exchange accounts? Let me read the whole. Is it possible to?
Not in the preview, but upcoming.
Okay.
It's now POP and IMAP accounts, but not native exchange accounts.
Okay. Same for Apple VPNs and stuff support or Horizon in the future?
All right. Or on the horizon.
Yeah.
So what's VPP? Okay, I'll have to get back to that, and we'll put it on IGEL Community Slack, right?
You got it. Well, answer any questions you stump us on.
Yeah, anything I can't answer in the session, we'll post later.
You got it.
So how do you get more than 5 licenses? You talk to your IGEL representative.
I like it.
Of 5 or less. We haven't decided yet. Okay, someone has been helpful. They told us they could see the camera. I created that entry, but don't see the QR code. Okay, let's attend to that. UMS administration. I can turn off the camera now, can't I?
Yes.
Give a man some privacy. It's the mobile devices node. But I think it only works if you have an ICG license installed. So this is basically the thing why you need an ICG demo license.
Cool. What about Android?
I hope this helps. What about Android on the roadmap? But that's a bit more diverse, of course, than iOS, which is only from one vendor. But we are thinking of supporting a vendor who has their own management interface. So that could be Samsung Knox. Yeah. Okay, and someone is speaking their mind about MDM MDM for UMS. Oh, okay.
What I like, Mathias, what I like about our MDM solution, also, I'll agree, it's not a full-fledged MDM solution. It's not. We're not trying to compete with, AirWatch or any of the big guys, right? But what it's a nice if you use the UMS and you haven't deployed a MDM solution. You just want something simple to manage the devices, to be able to wipe the devices, to know what you have. Then it's a great out-of-the-box solution, and that's really where we're aiming at. We're not trying to boil the ocean or compete with the big guys, right? We're just trying to give you something very simple that works.
We're having a shot at MDM, and this is also why it's only a preview at present. Licensing and pricing is not decided yet. Someone talks about high availability. Yes, UMS has high availability, and upcoming is also high availability for the IGEL Cloud Gateway. Okay, and some people tell us DEP is the device enrollment program for Apple. What else? What about enrolling a device when I'm on the road? the sysadmin can send you the QR code as an image.
Perfect.
So,
Well, the questions just keep coming. This is a popular one, right?
coming. Oh, I see. It's okay. Supervise DEP. Okay, thanks. People send us links about those acronyms I didn't understand from Apple. Cool. So pricing is not decided yet. Volume Purchase Program is VPP. Cool. Okay, that's very helpful. Is there documentation about how you can lock down a mobile device? It is, yes. So about locking down a mobile device, if you mean an iPhone, there is a manual and a setup instructions for the MDM preview. The Derby database be supported for high availability. No, the high availability setups, they necessitate a dedicated database server. Okay. So there was another round of questions. We have 8 minutes to go. So I think I'll take you through the rest of my presentation, and then I hope we can have some more questions. And you can always ask questions on the IGEL community, of course. Isn't that so, Doug?
I have to unpause myself. Yes, you can definitely, and we will post a follow-up to this or the recorded version, and Mathias answer any questions that he's missed, and so definitely ask more questions within that, within that that thread, I guess, is the best way to explain.
Cool. Now, a little feature that I think will be very useful when you work with profiles, and as the profiles get older, you can't remember what the default setting was that you changed 2 years ago. And now the profile knows whether a setting has been changed. And it gives you this little green arrow that's curling back, and that's the reset button, and it will reset an individual setting to its default value. And also, if you're in a profile, you have those little status icons with those triangles in blue or yellow, green. It will also reset the status. So that's a cool thing. You don't have to throw away the profile and redo it. You don't have to reset the whole device to factory defaults. You can reset almost anything to the default setting where it makes sense. Okay, that's what I said just in writing. Okay, another thing with TLS certificates. UMS uses TLS to transport, encrypt its communication with the thin clients, so that the settings are preserve their confidentiality and their integrity, and we use just the usual TLS technology with certificates. And also, once a thin client has received information about the UMS server certificate, it will not talk to another UMS server. So you can't sort of take over other people's thin clients. And if you have an older installation, you have a certificate that's based on the SHA-1 hashing algorithm, because that's what the state of the art then was. But that's obsolete now. And if you are in a security conscious organization, they will want you to use certificates that are hashed with the algorithm from the SHA-2 family. And that may be for compliance reasons. So if you could now, you have a feature to replace the certificate, to upgrade it to more modern algorithms. You can also use a certificate from your own corporate public key infrastructure. You could use a certificate from a CA, though I've learned today that there are some limitations to that. And if you do a new install, the new certificate will be generated with SHA 5.12 with RSA algorithm and a decent key length. If you update an older installation, the old certificate will be used as the default, but the cool thing is you can have more than one certificate at a time, and that enables you to safely migrate from one certificate to the other. Because if something goes wrong with the certificate, there will be sneaker networking for you, and you will have to visit the thin clients in person, log in, and locally remove the certificates. I'm planning a dedicated screencast about this because this is such an important point to get right. But you can have more than one certificate, and you can give them an orders of priority. And then let's say you have an old certificate, you generate a new certificate and make it the default. And then UMS will automatically migrate the thin clients to the new certificate if those thin clients operating systems support the new algorithms. If not, they can keep the legacy certificate. So I think that's pretty good heuristics for migration. Making sure that there always is at least one valid certificate used so that no machine becomes unreachable and unmanageable. Okay, that's barely what it says here. Then we have some minor changes. You have a lot of file choosers or file pickers for all kinds of files, for database updates, database dumps, wallpapers, profiles, and so on. And they used to never remember which file location you opened previously, and now they can. There's a heuristics for that. Is there a last known path for that exact type of file chooser? A file chooser for wallpapers should be maybe in your images directory. If not, is there any last known path that you've used previously? And the third is, if there isn't any of the two previous locations, then there's a default path. So that should be a bit more usable. If you've used template keys, you know those are placeholders that you can use in your profiles and that you can fill. There are now template keys that the thin client fills automatically because it knows its host name, MAC, and unit ID. You don't need to give values for those. Those will be filled automatically at runtime. Then some more security and compliance stuff. TOMCAT, the free Java servlet container that UMS is built on top of course, uses TLS ciphers as well. We do TLS version 1.2. And there are a lot of technical details involved in such a cipher. The asymmetrical encryption algorithm, the symmetrical encryption algorithm, the key exchange algorithm, the hashing algorithm, and so forth. And these are safe for a while, then it gets discovered that they have a flaw, and then they're obsolete, and you will want to remove them. And we have a GUI where you can do that. Oh, sorry. You can do that in the UMS administrator. That's the smaller of the two GUI applications, and you have to run it as the administrator or as root on Linux. And then you have configure ciphers. Yes. So this is a new install. On the left, there are inactive ciphers, and they're written in red because this was the information at the time of release that these were insecure. And these are the active ciphers. They're written in black, and they're all right. And if you update your installation, these may turn red, and then you can set them in active, and they'll move over to the left column. And as the Java runtime environment is updated, there will be some old ciphers that are not even supported by Java anymore. And these will grow red inverted. We don't have any of these now. You can set those in active as well. And if you're very particular about your algorithms, you can pick and choose here. But make sure to have enough ciphers activated that your clients do understand. So that's for specialists, but we do give you a hint by marking those in red that have been discovered as insecure. So this is one of the many new features in UMS. I always recommend, if you're looking for a specific, maybe very small fixed details, grab the release notes from the download server in plain text if you can, and use your favorite text editor to search for the keyword. So that's the other approach. This was the overview. If you're interested in a very specific fix, go find it in the release notes. So, and the hedgehog, in German IGEL, says thank you. And now we can have a last round of questions if you want. So, are people still on? Oh, yes.
Yeah,
You've been very patient today. Excellent. We've retained almost everybody that tuned in, that joined the session. That's very nice of you. Yeah, and the pubs are open.
Yeah, I don't know what kind of questions we have left, Matthias. We have a lot of, the guys have been so, and gals have been so helpful, sharing links, basically.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Knox. They're referring to Knox. Yeah, all kinds of Apple links. Yes, we'll definitely look at those. Thanks to everyone who added some information. Certificate exchange functionality into ICG. Yes, that's in the remote installer. I've showed it to you. Well, not the whole process, but yes, you can use the ICG remote installer to replace the SSL cert. Okay, Google Pixel, Android. Yes, there is much to do. Oh, praise for UD Pocket. Thank you. Oh, someone's still here for the beer. Are we going to do a community event, in real life?
Someday we are. Someday we are. At first, the way Slack worked to start with, we didn't know where people were located, and we have since changed the registration process. So now we're starting to collect where people are located, and soon we'll have a little form for people to share that information with us, so that we can start figuring out where to have these events. But it's definitely something we're going to be doing in 2019, is some local events and things like that.
Yeah.
Bringing the party to them. Right?
Very good, very good. I'd love to join you for such an event.
We'll do one down in Augsburg area or Munich or something, and have you.
Yeah, Munich would be great.
Yeah, for sure. I do have one question for the community, and or maybe this is more of a statement, but I think with the MDM feature, we'll probably create a MDM channel, a public channel for that. And so if you have questions, then you can post those within that public channel. It makes sense. Otherwise, I think that it would probably end up in the chit chat channel, and that doesn't make a lot of sense. So, guys, Matthias, thank you so much for taking the time to do this. We're
thanks everybody for attending. I see a lot of smiling emoticons in the questions. That's really kind of you. Thanks for watching.
Yeah, thanks everybody, and definitely stay tuned to Slack. Please join Slack if you're not already, or join the IGEL community. Join.igelcommunity.com. We'll post this webinar for you guys. Tons of more stuff. We're also updating the docs. If you're not familiar, our knowledge base, the old eDocs, has been updated, so definitely check that out if you haven't already. There's a lot of great stuff up there.
Yeah, it's now at kb.igel.com. KB for knowledge base.
You got it, and they did a great job. And the biggest improvement there, I mean, There's so many improvements, but the one I really like the most is the support is the search. So the search
Definitely,
is so
that
much
that
better.
used to be a real pain. It's really good now.
It's
Hmm.
really great. So definitely check that stuff out. And
And
guys, if you have any
also
suggestions, let
you
us know.
can turn stuff into PDFs automatically. Have you tried
Yes.
that?
Yes,
Yeah,
that
you
is
can have
very handy.
a single page or a whole section. You can have a PDF generated from that and download it
You
to
got
keep
I'm
it.
old, so I
And
like
it's
PDFs. I
always,
like to print things.
yeah. And the good thing is these are always up to date with the knowledge base because
You
they're
got it.
generated on the fly.
You got it. So definitely check out that.
Yeah.
And what else do I say? But
So
Matthias, thank you so much. This has been great, and thank you
thank
guys
you,
all for
Doug,
listening.
and the good people from the IGEL community.
All right, thanks everybody. Have a great day, and yeah. What else do I say? But thank you so much for joining, and thanks everybody, and thanks Matthias, and we'll call it an episode. Thanks everybody.
Excellent.